Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another day of taxes in 2025, for the tax year ending 2024 and for future planning for 2025. I do a lot of volunteer work with Revenue Canada, and seasonal agriculture workers are, the question is, do we have to pay taxes? Do we have to pay CPP? And what are the benefits? I always get concerned because when people leave and go back to their country of origin, now there's, 4 countries we'll be talking about. Mostly we'll be focusing on Mexico, based on tax treaties and why it's important to file your taxes. All right, so the question I get asked the most is, do I have to pay taxes in Canada, and what is CPP, Canada Pension Plan? Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to provide an overview of the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program in Canada, focusing on, the important aspects related to income taxes, of course, and your Canada Pension Plan. Talk about eligibility and taxation, what's mandatory, and just practical tips to help our foreign workers put food on the table for us and to make their life in Canada a little bit easier. So the agenda that I've sort of laid out is an overview of the Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program, taxation guidelines for seasonal workers, the Canada Pension Plan for seasonal workers, the Canada-Mexico Treaty, and practical tips for seasonal. Okay, so Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program, we're going to call it SAWP, okay? So it was designed by the government to address labor shortages, and we're going to use Mexico as our primary example. Just so you're aware, Canada has tax treaties with Mexico, with Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad, and Tobago for workers in the SAWP program. So again, just an introduction. So the treaty was signed in 1974, the program, to provide Canadians agriculture workers, with necessary labor for peak seasons so that they could keep up, with productivity. It also offered employment opportunities to foreign workers, in the participating countries that I outlined above. Okay, so it connects employees and workers, ensuring labor availability. The workers typically come from, as we said, bilateral agreements, including Mexico and the Caribbean nations that I had just mentioned. Seasons employment lasts up to 8 months, typically, and workers return to their country of origin, when the contract is over. So designated countries, again, Mexico and the Caribbean nations. The eligibility, so the workers have to meet the specific eligibility requirements. They have to have had prior agriculture experience before participation. This isn't meant, for somebody just new starting in the labor force, although I'm sure we do get families and, that have worked together, and I'm not sure how tight they are in that. We have to ensure that, of course, there's compliance with labor standards. We want to treat our foreign workers well, and we have to decide how we're going to address the potential language and cultural barriers. And usually there's centers set up to help our foreign workers when they come. So the roles and responsibilities of the workers and the employers. Okay, so the workers' responsibilities, they fulfilled their job duties, as per a job contract, just like any other Canadian. They apply to the program from their country of origin. So in the case of Mexico, they would apply here to the foreign worker program. Okay, once they were screened and if they were approved, they would get a work permit. And benefits. I just want to say one of the primary reasons we're doing this is Canada Pension Plan. Mexican employees, I'm asked all the time, well, do I get Canada Pension? I had to pay into it, and how much do I get, and how do I apply for it? Those sorts of things. Now, the employer's responsibility, they've got to create a safe working environment and ensure compliance with the laws, of course, to protect the workers. Just like anyone else in Canada, they have the same rights. Must demonstrate the need for seasonal worker, that it cannot be met through the local force. And how they do that is they apply for what's a labor market impact assessment, and you will have to advertise, for quite a length of time, really, when you're in dire need at a peak period, and prove that you've advertised. So you're going to have to provide the receipts for your advertisements. And once it's all approved, workers do come through the SAWP program. So let's talk about this. People think temporary workers, who should file taxes? These employees are coming, the last thing on their mind is taxes. Mexico is a different system than Canada. So we need supports in place to help these people. So their residency status will determine the amount and type of tax they're going to pay. And basically the criteria is, do you have significant residential ties to Canada? So there's three categories for tax purposes. If you're a non-resident, you don't have the ties, you stayed here for less than 183 days, you're subject to Canadian tax only on income from Canadian sources. And most of our people will fall into that category. If you're a deemed resident, meaning you have established ties with Canada, you've stayed for 183 days or more, and you have to pay Canadian income tax received from all sources, both inside and outside Canada. In other words, your worldwide income you're taxed on. So you're deemed non-resident, so you reside in a country that has a tax treaty with Canada, in this case, Mexico, and you're taxed the same way as non-residents. So you could be taxed at 15% with the tax treaty or 25% without the tax treaty. Residential ties, here's what they include if you're wanting a home in Canada: spouse, common law partner, social ties, Canadian driver's license, bank accounts, health insurance. People are going to have health insurance even as temporary workers. That's going to be provided by the employer. You have to. You can't bring these people here to work and then not have health insurance. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's residential tie. These are things that Canada Revenue Agency looks to. And I provided the link in here for you. Okay, let's talk about income tax obligations and who has to file. It's pretty straightforward. Basically, the Income Tax Act says, if you worked in Canada, you're gonna file a tax return. Okay, if you want a refund, if you want to recover anything, if you want your Canada pension so that it gets registered, you're going to file a tax return. The third case where you're going to have to file tax returns if you didn't, and Revenue Canada requests that you do. Okay, so you're working in Canada, you're required, and there are exceptions to that, but for the purpose of this temporary resident worker program, that is where we're going to go with that. We'll focus on that. Filing tax returns and deductions. So here's the importance of compliance and benefits. Not meaning to scare anybody here, but you have to file returns accurately. It's crucial for complying with tax laws and avoiding penalties and interest. If you don't file, Revenue Canada is very aggressive on non-compliance fees. Okay, an income tax return and benefits should be filed for all seasonal agricultural workers for the following reasons. We talked about, do you want to receive a refund? Was there an excess of tax withheld? What about an overpayment of CPP or EI contributions for that matter? It allows workers to claim applicable deductions or exemptions. So their basic exemption, so they don't pay tax. What if they had their wife and dependents here? They can claim those tax. It could reduce their tax. It allows them to get certain benefits and credits, like maybe they qualify for the GST, maybe they qualify for a carbon rebate, depending. It allows CRA to update the worker CPP contributions and future benefit, pension benefits. The reason this is so important is they've paid into this pension. When our foreign workers leave, they're entitled to this. pension, and they have to apply for it as a non-resident. All right. It also, Revenue Canada sort of looks at the claims with your personal tax return and the TD1. The TD1 is the form that the employees sign when they go to work with their companies, saying, okay, here's who am I supporting? Here's my basic exemption I qualify for. Is there anything else I qualify for? You know, education, disability, am I contributing to a private pension plan, those sorts of things, okay? So the filing deadline, of course, in Canada is April 30th, based on the prior year. And what I mean by that is, so we've just went from January to December 31st, 2024 into the new year, we're into 2025. So by April 30th, you have to file your personal taxes. They go on the calendar year end by April 30th, 2025. Okay, so I hope that's straightforward. So again, the importance of filing your tax returns, you know, the benefits, tax credits and exemptions for agricultural workers. You know, seasonal agricultural workers, you get to qualify for credits just like anybody else. Your basic personal amount, GST, and child tax credit. Exemptions, there are a number of exemptions, you know, in the tax treaties. Okay, 16,000 for workers from Mexico. So you still, even if $16,000 of your income is tax exempt and you think you don't have to file a tax return, you should, again, because you want your Canada pension plan to be registered so you can draw it out when you qualify to retire. Okay, it's really important that we assist our migrant workers, you know, in helping them understand what's available for them in Canada and really effective tax planning. And there's a lot of societies out there that do help in the transition. So for our migrant workers, what does Canada Pension help to do? It provides you with benefits, you know, if you retire, if you become disabled, or if you die. There is support there, financial support. It may not be significant dollars or huge dollars, but it helps. Every little bit helps. So foreign temporary workers who meet those eligibility requirements for CPP are you know, they'll get these benefits. So you have to be over 18. You have to have worked in Canada, not including Quebec. Okay, so this presentation is outside of the scope of Quebec. And you have to earn more than a $3,500 per year. Okay, the first $3,500 of earnings is CPP exempt. Okay, that's what we call the grant. Contributions, if you have an employer, you pay your portion and the employer matches your portion. Okay, based on the threshold set by Revenue Canada. Now, the benefits are you get a retirement pension, you get post-retirement, you get disability benefits and survivor benefits. So our international agreements, you know, between Mexico and Canada help set this up for you. Okay, if you have questions, you can contact the Canada Revenue Agency or your support, community support center will help you with this. Okay, so I just wanted to share with you so you know what the rates are current. And for the last 3 years, Canada Revenue Agency charged you 5.95% mandatory to put into a pension, and your employer matches that. Your first 3,500 is exempt. Maximum thresholds, I realize these are probably higher than you know what you typically earn as a seasonal worker, given the tax treaties and that. But the biggest thing here is the 5.95%. So you'll have double that. You'll go 5.95 plus 5.95. You know, so you're looking at close to 11%, 12% going into your pension of your earnings to draw out later when you're eligible for retirement. So you contribute, yes, to the pension plan according to your earnings, okay? You have to understand the rates because that's what you're going to calculate your future benefits from Canada Pension Plan on. Okay, and the amount contributed to the CPP, you know, makes it vital for planning, but it also helps you calculate what you're going to draw out when you're eligible. Okay, so I just wanted to visualize this for you. When you're paying these Canada Pension, that 5.95%, your employer matches the other. So you get your retirement pension. Okay, and you only had to made one valid contribution in Canada. Okay, so you have a survivor's pension. If the spouse does not have to have worked, your spouse doesn't have to have worked in Canada, okay? You can apply for this, but the migrant workers, you must have made at least 10 valid contributions. And the death benefit, it can be received by the next of kin, who do not or have not worked in Canada. Again, you've had to, as a migrant worker, made 10 valid contributions, and the rate of death is benefit is about $2,500 Canadian. Disability pension, so you've had to have contributed 4 out of 6 calendar years before a doctor has determined a disability. So there are some criteria there, but a lot of our temporary workers, they come back seasonally for many years, even up to retirement. Okay. I just wanted to point out when, to be eligible, you have to be the age of 60 to draw out your benefits, okay? So, just to reiterate, temporary foreign workers are subject to the same tax obligations in Canada as Canadian residents, including the CPP and also including employment insurance. Okay, you may, as a foreign worker, be eligible for CPP benefits if you've lived in Canada and other countries, and now we know that Canada and Mexico have this tax treaty together. So you know that you can collect your CPP, and as long as you're eligible and you meet the criteria, and you can have your pension when you retire at home in Mexico. And that does not, under the agreement, it should not affect your Mexican pension from IMSS, okay? Again, we're using Mexico as the example. CPP that you get depends on how much you paid in and how many years, eligible years, have you made contributions, right? When do you apply? You apply 11 months on, if you want to apply for early, age 60, typically retirement age in Canada, 65, 72, those are 2 thresholds. But if you want to collect your pension at 60, then your 59th birthday, 11 months before you turn 60, put your application in through My Services Canada. Okay, what'll happen is you're going to receive these slips because you're a non-resident now, you've gone home, you've retired, you've worked your 20 years in Canada, you receive what's called an NR4 slip each year, and it'll show how much CPP benefits you get, and you should be filing Canadian tax returns. Okay, and under the tax treaty agreements, it prevents double taxation, so you won't be paying tax in 2 countries on the same amount. You need to check your tax agreement, tax treaty, and you need to check with your Mexican SAT authorities, is a pension exempt in Mexico, is a Canadian pension exempt from tax, okay? And then how much CPP will you get? Okay, to do that, it's going to be based on contribution, lengths of contribution. There's a whole formula there. What I'm going to recommend here is you set up your account at myservice.canada and you log in and you make a request that, what will I get? If you cash in early, like 65 is typically the age, you'll get a reduced amount. If you wait till 65, you'll get a maximum amount. The calculations are not easy as an individual. What I would do, you have to set up your My Service account anyways to apply for your pension when you retire back home in your country of origin. So that's how you're going to want to do this. And I put the link in the slide below. So just some practical tips. I help a lot of foreign workers, and here's some of the concerns. Okay, English is my second language. Where can I get help? Oh, what will it cost? I'm really not making a lot of money right now. My income's limited. I can't afford to hire somebody. Well, let's start, before you get overwhelmed with everything, just here's what you can do. you have to maintain financial records, okay? So you've got to make sure that if you have any receipts, if you have like medical receipts, you know, if your T4s to document your income, you're going to need all these financial records regardless of who does your taxes. So try to keep, somewhere a box, a folder full of these records that you'll need to have someone help you with your taxes. So resources and support for tax filing. The Canada Revenue Agency sponsors community volunteer programs, and they provide free help for you to do your taxes. Okay, community organizations, for example, Karamias, it's Lower Similkameen Support Services, and for immigrants and temporary workers. They're all across Canada, Saskatchewan, PEI, these nonprofit societies that do help do free tax returns for people that qualify. And certainly you're going to qualify under the temporary foreign worker program. It has to be simple returns. It can't be business returns. It can't be T3 death returns, that sort of thing. T4s, RSP income, scholarship income, those sorts of things. Okay. And it has to be less than, just under $40,000. All right. There are online platforms, very easy. If you set up my account with Canada Revenue Agency, there are workshops and training if you feel that you want to do that. And sometimes if you're a temporary worker, you think, well, why do I want to learn all that if somebody can help me and support me without cost? So take advantage of those programs. That's what they're there for. So in conclusion, basically we have the the seasonal agricultural worker program. It's essential for Canadians. I mean, you guys, without you, we wouldn't be putting a lot of food on our tables. And it benefits the individual as well, the job, benefits, and future pension. And it's just important that we help our seasonal workers, that you understand once you've got all that work permit, the paperwork, and you're coming through to Canada, it doesn't end there. File your tax returns. If you don't file your tax returns, you're losing your pension. And you've worked hard for that. Even if it's one season, file your tax return. And, maybe it's not big dollars, but you get something for what you paid into for your pension. All right. I hope it was helpful. We'll see if I can get it to do Spanish subtitles for you. And have a great day. And if you enjoyed this, please share it with somebody or click a like and a subscribe. I greatly appreciate that. Have a great day.